So this is the very last part of our 5-part series for this week. It's called The Middle. Is this really where you want to be? And what we're doing is we're looking at benchmark data, standards, and discussing the psychology of choosing the middle. So let's get into it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll get right to it. All right, so the middle, is this where you want to be? Benchmarking data standards discussion on the psychology of the middle. And as we look at the psychology of the middle, we have to ask ourselves why? Why are we choosing the middle? And basically, it's called heuristics, which are shortcuts that we've built into our brain. We have hundreds of decisions that we make every day. What to have for lunch, what to order on a menu, what to get at the grocery store, what clothes to wear, there's what type of coffee to brew, if to have the coffee at all, what route are we going to take to work, just all these questions that constantly come up into our heads. So in order to conserve energy, there are these little shortcuts that our brains have built in. And one of those shortcuts is choosing the middle. And if we don't have systems in place for making decisions, like these heuristic strategies for simple decisions we have throughout the day, we get analysis paralysis. And I believe that everybody kind of knows what this term is and what it potentially means for us. However, I found this great article and I want to read it with you. It has a cute little story in here about Winston Churchill. So let's get started. So what is analysis paralysis? It is said that during World War II, Winston Churchill, after hearing the boat designers spent most of their time discussing design changes, he sent them a message. The maxim, nothing prevails but perfection, may be spelled paralysis. And he spells it out here. He was referring to analysis paralysis, which consists of thinking too much about a situation, so that we never reach a decision or take action. When the decision is very complicated and there are too many options, we do not choose because we get stuck in analysis phase, looking for the perfect solution. The problem is that analysis paralysis leads us to a situation in which the cost of the reflection exceeds the benefit that we could have obtained if we simply chose a path. In other words, we may lose more by getting stuck than we could lose by making a decision, even if it was not the best decision. In life, analysis paralysis can lead us to lose great opportunities and can prevent high emotional or economic costs. And in our last video, I went over decision fatigue, and that is also one of the reasons why, obviously one of the things that an analysis paralysis can cause. And why is analysis paralysis occurring? It's a fear of making mistakes. Oftentimes, every day we have to make dozens of decisions. Some are more important than others, inconsequential. All these decisions generate anxiety depending on the impact they have in our lives. The fear of making mistakes, not being able to go back once we've made a decision, is one of the main causes of analysis paralysis. We want to be sure, but given that we can never have an absolute certainty, we are paralyzed in the analysis phase, incubating that fear of error, analyzing again and again the consequence of the different options without opting for any. Too much information. In modern society, the capacity to choose has been overestimated to the point that the amount of options available simply overwhelm us. In fact, it has been shown that the more options a consumer has, the less likely he or she will be to buy, the longer it will take them to make a decision, if he or she takes it. In these cases, the problem is that we lose ourselves by valuing more and more detail to differentiate one option from another. And in the end, we end up exhausted and frustrated, which reduces our capacity for deciding. We also have tendencies for perfectionism. In other occasions, we get stuck circling and circling because we pursue perfection. We want to finalize all details before making a decision because we want the result to be perfect. Another reason is aversion to opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is a concept used in economics to designate the value of the option not chosen. It refers to what we would lose choosing an alternative. In many cases, focusing too much on what we've renounced instead of focusing on what we gain prevents us from making a decision and condemns us to paralysis. In practice, we are blinded by losses and forget profits and gains. The worst of all is that many cases we make excuses and explain that analysis paralysis. For example, we say that we need more information to make a decision when in reality what stops us is the fear of making the mistake. In those cases, it is important to be aware of what causes decision paralysis so as not to run around in circles, worried uselessly and wasting our psychological energy. This is from the psychologyspot.com. So I bring this to your attention to, again, point to some of the pitfalls that can come from having too many options. Offering a slew of different insurances that will benefit your employees is absolutely a wonderful idea. However, especially when it comes to medical plans, I see employers offering dozens and dozens of options, which then leads to a lot of analysis paralysis. For the first time in 5 years, the SBSC has been conducting nationally. More firms experience decrease in revenues and employment than increases. So this is a survey that I'm keeping my eye on. They released this last year, and I'm looking for the updated copy from Federal Small Business. And I'm interested to see what the updates are for 2021. They haven't been released yet. So I wanted to go over some of this information, as I think it'll be interesting as we get some new information on these trends specifically. So this is looking at a decrease in revenues. So these are up here, they were at 22%, 28%, 35%, 34%, and then they fell off a cliff in 2020. And I would like to see if these improved. And again, this is for small business. Employer firm performance, revenue change, increase, 13% increase, 9% no change, and 78% decreased. Employment change, increase 11%, no change 43%, and 46% decreased. 95% of employer firms reported that pandemic affected their operations. So 56% reduced operations, 48% modified operations, 26% temporarily closed, 5% expanded, and 5% had no significant change. Drivers of operational changes during the pandemic. Changes in demand for products and services, 58%. Government mandate, 55%, needed to adapt to health and safety guidelines, 52%, government mandate affecting clients' businesses, 34%, worker availability, 27%, supply chain disruptions, 24%, owners' personal family obligations, 10%. So one of the themes that we're running this week is really looking at what is going on in the marketplace and keeping in mind that employees see benefits as an important part of their compensation. And about 2/3 of employees are reporting that their benefits package makes them more productive. It makes them feel taken care of. They don't have to worry about certain costs as much as maybe they would if they worked for a different employer with different benefits. And they're more likely to stay with an organization and recommend that organization as an employer to their friends. So back to this study, we've got 81% of firms reported a decrease in sales as a result of the pandemic, and 3% expected a 2020 sales decline of more than 25%. Now, when all these surveys were taken, you have to remember that people were in the throes of change, and maybe there was a little bit more panic going on than right now, but I am very curious to see how these numbers have changed here, and we should be getting this data very soon, which is why I want to review it with you before we get the new release. The impact of the pandemic on availability of goods. So 20% saw a large decrease in availability, 43% saw a moderate decrease, 20% little or no effect, and 15% it didn't, says that they don't rely on suppliers. 80% of employer firms experienced financial challenges in the prior 12 months, an increase of 14% points from the 2019 survey. So in 2017, it was 64%, and in 2020, it was 18% or 80% with financial challenges. We've got types of financial challenges: paying operational expenses, making payments on debt was 44%, paying rent was 43%, purchasing inventory or supplies to fulfill contracts was 32%, credit availability was 32%, other financial challenges was 9%, no financial challenges was 20%. Okay, so we've got 62% of firms use personal funds to address their financial challenges. So 62% use personal funds, 55% cut staff and hours, downsize operations, 52% obtained funds through grants, crowdfunding, and donations, 50% took out debt, 38% made late payments or did not pay. So as we're looking at all this challenging information, I know there's a lot of talk out there. Are we headed towards this recession, or did this recession already happen and we're coming out of it? We may not know until it's until it's over completely, but we got to keep an eye on this stuff. We got to know what's going on out there. So I am keeping my ear to the ground and trying to help my clients navigate the road ahead. And throughout this pandemic, we have seen that companies that are pivoting and making changes are excelling. And there are employee benefits packages that are excelling and growing and hiring, and there's lots of competition out there for high quality talent. So we have to keep in mind that when we're given three choices, people tend to choose the middle. They don't choose the most expensive, they don't choose the least expensive, they choose the one right in the middle. And even when we're given a picture of three cards, we choose the picture in the middle, regardless of price. So knowing this, we need to go into it knowing that there are biases, and we have to ask ourselves, why are we even offering these plans and benefits to our employees? We also need to understand that employees are going to be using these strategies when they pick out their plans as well, and keep that in mind. So if there's more than three options, most employees view this as many. So it's 1, 2, 3, many. If there's more than three, they see a lot of options, and it tends to lead to overwhelm, confusion, and lack of understanding, or analysis paralysis, as we brought up earlier in this presentation. Simplifying the process and options leads to happier employees and happier HR. You want to keep your HR staff happy. So 80% of firms reported that the pandemic-related business challenges impacted the owner's personal finances. So 63% did not draw a salary. Paid businesses expenses with personal funds was 51%. 26% they're concerned about personal credit scores and loss of personal assets due to late payments. 21% borrowed funds from a spouse, family, or friends. 16% borrowed against their home or retirement account. 14% worked a second job or extra hours outside of their business, and 20% no challenges at all. 91% of employer firms sought emergency assistance and funding. Applications for emergency assistance and funding Paycheck Protection Loan Program was 82%, 47% EIDL loan, 35% EIDL grant, 28% grant from state or local government fund, 8% grant from a nonprofit or foundation, 8% loan from local government fund, 9% did not complete emergency assistance. 26% or 96% of employer firms that applied for PPP loans reported that they received at least some funding. So 77% all, 11% most, and 8% some. Share of PPP recipients that expected loan forgiveness, 80% expect loan forgiveness. Debt and financing, debt outstanding. So 79% of employers have faced outstanding, up from 71%. So that's up slightly. So as we're looking at this information, we've got to think about how we're going to create stickiness with our employees. So even if you're downsizing, you want to think about being able to attract and retain the very, very top talent. So let's say you're having to go from 100 employees to 80, you want to keep the best 80, right? So we've all heard to create stickiness with our customers and our clients, and it's also beneficial to think of stickiness with our employees. And imagine what our business would look like if we had less turnover, and what a cost saving strategy that can be in the long term. And also, what would happier employees and more loyal employees do for your business? So the Lydiard report is another one that I looked at. So we're keeping an eye out for that Fed report on loans, and the businesses that did take out loans and that were seeking loans. That was basically the reference of the data that we just reviewed together. And we're going to be getting that 22 report here pretty soon. For your employees who can work remotely, to the best of your knowledge, which of the following most accurately describes their preference for return to in-person work as it becomes safer to do so? 71%, most employees prefer a hybrid model, a mix of remote and in-person work. Okay. 16%, most employees prefer to work remotely full-time. So those are the two top categories there. For your employees who can work remotely, which of the following best describes how your organization plans to approach work schedules once it's safer to return to work in person? 55% employees will be offered a hybrid model, a mix of remote and in-person. 28% will have most employees return to work full-time in person. 7% can continue to work remotely full-time if they wish. All right, which of the following changes has your organization made or is considering due to COVID-19? Check all boxes that apply. 67% have fewer employees work on site at a time. 55% have redesigned the office layout, including barriers between desks, working stations, expanded conference rooms, etc. 41% provide additional technology and reimbursement for at-home related expenses and office expenses at home. 35% building formal support for employees with remote and flexible work arrangements. 31% utilizing office hoteling, whereby employees reserve desks for a day at a facility hybrid work schedule. Okay. Reducing the size of our office space was 27%. 2% relocating operations out of cities or densely populated areas, 11% none. Okay, so that's it for this series. And as I said, there's a couple there. We've got the Unum reports coming up. We've got that Fed report that I was looking out for loans and companies that were taking out loans and what their revenues were looking like for 2021. So those will be coming out hopefully here in the next couple of weeks. And as soon as I receive them, I will be posting videos and updates on those. I look forward to meeting you. I've got a couple of links below. There's a link for messaging me and asking me a question. There's a link for questionnaires for employers who want help or have questions. There's questionnaires for individuals who are interested in some coaching. And there's also a meet and greet that I'm going to be doing out in Arizona. So thanks for hanging out with me. I really enjoyed our time together and I look forward to hearing from you.